Hi everyone and welcome along to the October DIY pot kit tutorial. Thank you again for joining me this month, for seeing the pots that we've got available to order. I'm going to talk you through how to pot up your kit, how to look after your plant. We've focused this month mainly on house plants. Some of the plants we are bringing back this month because they've just been so popular and you've loved them so much. So we're bringing back the olive tree and the lemon and the fern planter as well. So all of which you can keep indoors. And we will talk you through how to pot up, how to look after them, and give you some tips on how to make the most out of your gorgeous pockets. So let's get started. So I thought I'd start with the biggest of our October pockets, which is the asparagus fern Sprengeri. Now, this is a huge plant. It's a 23 centimetre pot, I believe, and it's just absolutely gorgeous, show-stopping. I'm so chuffed with it. I saw it on the auction and snapped them up really quickly because they go so fast. And yeah, I'm so in love with it. It looks so beautiful in the house. I've got one myself. Yeah, I think you'll really love this one. It comes in, as always, a gorgeous Berg's Potter terracotta pot. So this is our largest size. It's the 25 centimetre pot and matching saucer. And it works really beautifully together. So I will show you how to pot this kit up. So pop your pot on its saucer before you go in with your gravel. So as usual, all the kits will include your gravel, your compost, your moss. We've actually got 3 different types of moss this time. Usually we only have 2. Now we've added in the carpet moss as well, just to give you even more kind of texture, even more variety. So add in your gravel. So the purpose of the gravel is to provide drainage and to make sure that your plant's roots aren't just sort of sat in in water basically. So it means that it's the water when you water your plant, it goes down through the soil and doesn't sort of seep and sit at the bottom of the plot where the roots of the plant will be, because that's how you then get root rot and they just don't like it. So take your humongous fern and gently out of the pot. Look at those roots. Oh my gosh, they're amazing. Look at those. Wow. Okay, so pop your plant in. I'll move it so that you can see me. So now with this, you don't need any extra compost. So the plant fits the pot perfectly. What you will need is your moss on top. So let me just reach around and grab some of that. So I'm going to go with the carpet moss and the beautiful bun moss, which is this lovely sort of green one here. And then you just fill in the gaps around the plant with your moss. Now the purpose of the moss, for not only because I think it looks really beautiful and finishes the pot off really nicely, but it's also to stop the water that is in the soil from evaporating quite so quickly. So just add that in around. You don't need a lot because the plant is so huge. Okay, so that is your asparagus potted. So if I just move it to the side and give you some tips on how to look after it. So as with all ferns, they like to be kept damp but not soaking wet. They don't like to dry out. So I would suggest keeping an eye on the soil. Don't go by the moss, go by the soil underneath the moss. So make sure that when you're watering, you're not watering the moss, you are actually watering the soil and the plant itself. So yeah, keep it damp. I won't use the M word. Keep it damp. Pop it somewhere where it's going to get the most humidity. So it would work perfectly in a kitchen or in a bathroom or sort of on a side table somewhere, or I imagine it on top of a piano. It'd be look incredible. And keep it well watered, not soaking wet, and give it a spritz every now and then with one of those kind of floristry spritz guns, just to add in the humidity, which they love, and they thrive from humidity. So there you have it, a really easy to look after, beautiful asparagus fern pot kit. So our next pot kit for October is the Boston Fern pot kit. Now this is a really sort of well-known, well-loved fern, really easy to look after, goes anywhere, and it's just sort of it's a good size. It's a good size to add to your other styling in your home. It will just kind of blend in to your sort of other accessories and things like that. So it's a really good kit. So in your pot kit for the Boston Fern, you will receive a 16cm bird's potter pot and matching saucer with this gorgeous scalloped edging around the top. Oh, and of course your moss and your gravel and your compost. So to start with, you pop your pot on its saucer and then add in your gravel. This again with the asparagus fern, it stops the roots of your Boston Fern sitting in sort of lots of water, which it doesn't like. It likes to be kept damp, but not sort of overwatered and not soaking wet. So pop the gravel in. I would say you might need a little bit of compost around the base. So on top of the gravel, I'd say maybe an inch of compost. And then take your plant out of its pot and then add in the rest of the compost around the edges of your plant, making sure there's no sort of air pockets, so ensuring that you get the compost all the way down and all the way around the sides, bringing that up to meet sort of the level of where the pot is, the plant is, sorry. Gently compress it down, making sure there's enough compost in there. Okay, now you can now add in your moss. So you have your bun moss, which is this moss here. So add that around the edge of your plant. You can break it up into small pieces so that it fits perfectly. And then I've added in some carpet moss this month, so it's this lovely green sort of flat moss is another word, another name for it. So add that in the gaps. And then lastly, the sphagnum moss, which is the sort of more two-tone moss. It's got a lovely texture, so I then quite like to kind of pop that in the gaps and then almost have it trailing over the pot. Just makes it really nice and relaxed and informal. Okay, so care tips for your Boston pot kit. As with all ferns, it likes to be kept damp, not too wet. It likes a bit of humidity, so if you've got a spritz gun, give it a spritz every now and then, every few days if that's possible. But yeah, just keep it well watered but not soaking wet, making sure you're watering the soil and not the moss. And yeah, it's a really easy houseplant to look after, and hopefully you'll watch it grow, watch it thrive, and it will add to your beautiful interior styling. So your next October pot kit is the beautiful button fern and its lovely Planet Collection Berg's Potter pot. So this is a new one this month. It's got this lovely kind of layered effect and a matching saucer that's slightly different to the other pots. that we have in our collection, and it just works beautifully together. So that's a 14cm pot, and this is your button fern. It's a slightly more unusual fern, I think. It has these beautiful little kind of round leaves off its fronds, which I guess is why it's called, it's commonly known as the button fern. But yeah, a really lovely kind of relaxed, rustic, informal plant. So if you're going to pot up your button fern, adding in the gravel at the bottom for drainage. So that, and then make sure that the roots aren't going to sit in sort of stagnant water that will kill it and give it root rot. So then take your plant out of its pot and just pop it straight in. It fits really well. You will need to add just this tiny bit of compost around the edges. So not much, but just making sure you filled in any gaps. It's definitely worth taking the time to make sure that your compost is in properly so that you don't have lots of air pockets down the sides. Okay, and then just gently compress that down. And now we can add in the moss. So I'm going to go with the sphagnum moss first. And just add that quite loosely around the base of the plant. I like how it sort of drapes down over the side. And then I'm going to add some of the carpet moss, just a little bit around the edge. And then of course, my favourite, the bun moss. So that just goes in all the gaps. The moss is really good at keeping the moisture in, so it doesn't evaporate quite so quickly when you water it. But a key thing is to make sure that you water the soil and not the moss, because the moss obviously will soak up the water and then it won't reach the soil and the roots. So when watering, ideally, if possible, I would water sort of in the centre of the plant, so then it actually gets down into the root system rather than just being soaked up by the moss that surrounds it. And with regards to watering, yeah, just keep the soil damp, keep an eye on it. It doesn't need, you know, sort of every 2-3 days of watering. I go probably with my ferns, gosh, once a week maybe. But probably saying that, once the central heating goes on, I would say you might find that you need to water a little bit more frequently. Give it a spritz if you've got a spritz gun. Again, as with other ferns, it really benefits from a spritz and the humidity that creates. But again, another really easy fern houseplant to look after, and I hope you enjoy it. So our next pot kit for October is the Blue Star Fern pot kit, which is this fern right here. It's slightly different from the other ferns, I believe, in that the tone of it is a lot more kind of sagey, bluey green, hence the name. It's not as sort of foresty green as the other ferns. It's definitely more sort of paler almost in its tone. It also has these gorgeous kind of unusual shaped leaves. It really is gorgeous. I have it in this size and I also have it in a much bigger one as well. And I've had mine for 2 years and they just are really easy to look after and they just do so well in the kitchen or in the bathroom. I keep mine in my kitchen and my smaller one in my bathroom, and both of them sort of benefit from that extra humidity you get in those areas of your home. So if I were to suggest where to place them, I would probably say a kitchen or a bathroom is the best way to go. The other thing about the Blue Star Fern is that it has these incredible properties whereby it really cleans the air. I mean, all the ferns do that, but this one in particular is known for sort of cleaning the air and just really producing a lot more oxygen. So it's a really nice one to have in the home. Okay, so let's pop this up. everything out. So adding in your gravel first. So this kit comes with this beautiful ribbed Simona pot, Berg's Potter pot. Again, one of my favourites. Just the detailing is just stunning, and the matching saucer with all its little sort of knobbly bits around the edge. It's just beautiful. One of my favourites. So add in the gravel first. So again, as with all the other ferns that I've mentioned, that just adds to the drainage. It means it's not going to sit in water. So take your pot, plant out of its pot, and it goes straight in. Now this one fits like a glove. You won't need any additional compost with this plant. So it's so easy to pot up. So just gently compress it down into the pot, and then you can just go straight in with your moss. So you'll have carpet moss, bun moss, and the sphagnum moss in your kits. So you can just do a mixture of however you want, adding it around the edge of the pot, just into the gaps. A really easy plant to pot up. So in terms of looking after your blue star fern, as with the other ferns, the soil needs to be kept damp but not really overwatered. It doesn't like to sit in lots of water. What else? Again, likes humidity, so give it a spritz if you have one every few days if you can. And I think that's about it. It's a really easy plant to look after. If you find that the ends of the leaves start to go brown, that is usually because you've overwatered it, which is obviously so easy to do, but just hold back from the watering, check the soil, hold back and just give it a minute, and then just keep going with maybe sort of once a week, just little and often rather than a really good drench. So it's different to the sort of the Mediterranean plants that we have done in the past who like a really good soaking and then to be left alone. Ferns like to be kept damp, but not overwatered. So just keep an eye, make sure you're watering the soil, not the moss, and hopefully you'll really enjoy your blue star fern. So the next pot kit is the Trailing Ivy pot kit. It comes in, again, a new pot for October. It comes in these gorgeous, tall, scalloped edged pots. So they're similar to the other kind of castle pots that we have from Berg's Potter, but they're just sort of taller and sort of more slimline. So they're just really unusual, a bit different, and they're great for a trailing plant because it gives it that sort of opportunity just to sort of trail down. So this is the pot, and then here is your Trailing Ivy. Now this thrives really well indoors. And it sort of has that lovely kind of rustic feel to it. So yeah, a lovely, lovely pot kit. So as always in your pot kit, you'll have your gravel and your compost and your moss. So pop the pot on the saucer and then add in your gravel. Now the other good thing about this pot is that because it is taller, it means that the root system has a lot of space to grow down. So you should find that your ivy will really thrive in this pot. Pop your pot in and see where it sort of falls. I would say that's probably about right. I don't think I need to put too much compost in, but I'm going to put just a tiny bit, just a small layer over the gravel, maybe 1 centimetre. And then I'm going to add in the ivy. So just gently take it out of its pot and place it in. So you will find that you won't need much compost on top. I'm just going to put a little bit, mainly just because it's just added nutrients, because there's sort of nutrients in the compost that you get from the kits. So every little helps. So just adding in a little bit. Like that. And then adding on top your moss. So what you probably will find is it will trail over one side, so you don't necessarily need any moss under that, but around the back you'll see that there's some space, and that's where I like to add it. So if I just turn it around, you'll be able to see. So I popped a little bit of the bun moss there. I'm now going to add in some of the sphagnum moss, which I'll allow to sort of trail over the edge of the pot, and then a tiny bit of the carpet moss, which I'm going to actually put some round underneath the front of the plant, like that. So then you can't see any of the sort of the soil, you can just see the moss in the gaps. And there you have it, looking lovely. So in terms of care for ivy, it's similar to the other ferns, I guess, in that it does like to be kept damp and not dry out. Don't overwater it, so don't let it sit in sort of a puddle of water in the bottom of the pot. By having quite a lot of gravel that you'll have in your kit, you are giving it a really good chance of growing really beautifully, because any water that sort of sits will be in this part of the pot here rather than where the root system is around this bit. So yeah, just don't overwater. Put it somewhere where you can give it a water every maybe sort of once a week, I'd say. Keep an eye on it. Pop it somewhere where it can trail beautifully, whether that's in a bathroom or on a shelf. They work so well on a shelf, amongst all your sort of other interior styling bits. And hopefully you'll really enjoy it, and hopefully love these gorgeous new terracotta pots that we have for October. So I'm now going to take you to 3 previous tutorials for 3 of our most popular pot kits that I've brought back for October. They are the little olive tree, the fern terracotta rose planter, and the little lemon tree as well. This is my own personal olive tree that I have in my house. I've had it for probably 3 months, perhaps. So I had it in the garden on my table, and I brought it back in about 3 weeks ago. So far it's doing really well. I watered it yesterday. Again, in the tutorial I'll go through some of the tips on how to look after your olive. I've actually chosen the white glazed olive tree kit. I believe we may have sold out of the terracotta already, so but we do have the white, which is equally beautiful, so I'll show you that next. And on that tutorial it will give you some tips on how to look after it and keep it thriving indoors. And then next, after that, it will be the fern rose terracotta planter. Again, keeping with this kind of theme that we have this month of the ferns and ivy. It's a beautiful planter dish with 3 different varieties of fern, and all you need to pop that up. So that's another gorgeous one, something really beautiful to have on your island or on the side in your kitchen. And then the last one is the little lemon. A plant that I just absolutely adore, one of my favourites. Something you have in the garden over the summer, spring and summer, and then something that you can bring indoors throughout sort of the cooler months. So I am about to bring mine in. I had it in for a bit and then it got milder, so I took it back outside. It's actually now starting to go yellow, the lemons are, which quite often happens at the end of the sort of season as you come to sort of the harvest time like we're in now. But that does really well indoors as we start to get colder. Definitely bring it in obviously before the frosts. So the third one that I'm adding on to the end of this tutorial is the little lemon. So still a beautiful pot kit that you can order and enjoy throughout the colder months. So I hope you enjoy. Please do tag me, send me photographs of your kits, let me know how it goes, and I hope you really enjoy our October kits. So the next pot kit for September is our much loved, one of our best sellers, the Little Olive Tree Kit. This month in September we've got a new pot to put it in. We've kept the rose terracotta pot as well because you will love it so much and it does look so beautiful, but we've also brought in a new pot which is the same but in this gorgeous sort of milky white glaze. They call it mineral white. and it really is truly lovely. Comes in its matching saucer with all that lovely castle detail that we have on the other pots in the rose terracotta. So yeah, both are options on the website, so you can order either, but we could not bring it back because it's just so adorable and you will love it so much. And it's exciting now that as we move away from summer and into autumn, that we can start bringing certain plants that grow so well in the garden in summer into the house, treat them slightly differently, but yeah, how lovely to be able to have an olive indoors. So I'll pot it up for you and show you what to do, and then I'll go through tips on how to look after it. So adding in your gravel. So this creates the drainage, stops the roots from sitting in too much water, which causes root rot, and something that they really don't like. So once you've added your gravel in, give your tree a good drink, and then gently take it out of its pot and pop it straight into your pot there. And you'll see it might need a little bit of compost around the sides. So again, adding some of that in, making sure it's nice and compact. You won't need very much at all. Just making sure there's no air pockets in the soil. So compacting that nicely. And then, as I said before, in the August pot kits when we did the olives, I like an olive in its pot without the moss. Personally, I don't know why, I just find it a really nice contrast between the sage green of the olive leaves and the sort of the dark soil. But saying that, obviously in your pot kit you will have moss, so go ahead should you wish to. So with this one, you might need to take a little bit of the root system off the moss, off the bun moss. So just purely doing that, nice and easy, and then sitting that around. Just adds a really lovely texture to your pot kit. And then going in with some sphagnum moss, so that you've got two different mosses around the base. And there you go, there you have it, all potted up. Gorgeous little olive tree. So in terms of caring for your olive, you can keep it outside actually if you want to, probably until, I would say, until it hits around the kind of 12-15 degree mark outside. Once it does start to get cooler, bring it in, but don't bring it indoors from a really cool day to a centrally heated house, because it will go into shock and then it will die. It will lose all its leaves and then it will die. You almost need to bring it in gradually. So that's if you want to keep it outside for a short while before we really get into autumn. If you want to receive your kit, pot it up and then keep it indoors straight away, probably what I would actually recommend, so that then you're not taking it into a different atmosphere that then will shock it when it comes back in. So I would say keep it indoors, put it in a place where it's going to get as much sunlight as possible, because they do still love a lot of light. And then the crucial sort of step for looking after your little olive is the watering. So it's really easy to overwater because you so desperately obviously want it to survive and you think that's doing the right thing. I've made that mistake before, and actually with olive, they like to be drenched and have a really good water, and then leave them alone. Let the soil dry out. Again, same with the fig, an inch. Put your finger in the soil, check that it's dry. When it's dry, you water it again, and you're probably looking at once a week, maybe 10 days you water it. Okay, so it's not a little and often plant at all. It's not like some other house plants, one of which will go the angel vine, which is definitely more of a house plant where it likes to be kept damp all the time. This is one where It really doesn't like sitting in a lot of water, hates having its roots wet. So yeah, treat it keen, treat it mean, keep it keen. So give it a good drink, let it dry out, a week later, 10 days later, give it another good drenching. It will rest in the winter, so it doesn't need too much care and attention. And then hopefully in the spring and the summer, you'll be able to move it outside and enjoy it in the outdoors. So there you have it, the white glazed pot olive tree, which we also have in the rose terracotta as well. And I hope you enjoy it. So this one is the last in the houseplants for our September pockets, and it's a gorgeous textural houseplant. Works beautifully in sort of rustic interiors. I love it, it's gorgeous, and it's the Maidenhair vine. So easy to look after, and a really good one for the home. So in your kit you will, as always, have your gravel, your compost and your moss, and obviously your plant and your terracotta pot. So this one is a really cute 12cm Berg Potter terracotta pot. So it's one of our smaller ones. So yeah, really easy to put anywhere in the home. Put it on a shelf in the kitchen and let it sort of drape down, or pop it on a bookshelf in, you know, somewhere else in your home, and it goes anywhere, or in the bathroom. It looks beautiful as well. A really versatile houseplant, I think. So adding in your gravel in the bottom of the pot. Again, just a little bit, just to kind of cover the bottom of the pot so that its roots don't sit in any water. Give your Maidenhair vine a nice drink when you receive it. Don't leave it in the box. Give it a good drink straight away. I thought, oh, it's a spider. Is it a spider? No, it's not a spider. Sorry, freak out. Add your Maidenhair vine to the pot and you'll find it fits perfectly. You don't need any soil. I will put compost in your kits just in case. You won't need it, but it's there, you know, use it for something else. But yeah, I will put it in the kit just in case. So add it in. You will probably also find you don't have much space for moss. But again, it will be in your kit and you can use it if you want to, or use it on something else that you have potted up. But there'll just be a little bit in there. And again, this might be a case of you just really separate it up and just pop it in any gaps that you see. It just adds a bit of depth, a bit more texture if it needs it. And just add it into the gaps. So that's the bun moss, and then we'll just pop a little bit of the sphagnum moss in. But as you can see, it just drapes so beautifully, and it really does look gorgeously rustic. I love it, and it really works so beautifully with interiors. So that is it. In terms of looking after your Maidenhair vine, it's a houseplant that likes to be kept damp. So it's not the same as our kind of more Mediterranean plants like the fig and the olive and the lemon, where they like to be drenched and then left alone for a while to dry out. This is one that likes to be kept damp but not soaking wet. So again, with all plants, I suppose, it doesn't like to be sat in water. It doesn't like its roots to be sat in cold, wet water. Cold, wet water, cold water. So yeah, keep it damp, but not overwatered, and definitely not dry. So just keep an eye on it, keep an eye on the soil, and yeah, just keep it nice and well watered. So we're now going to move on to our next indoor pot kit, which is our glazed green pot herb planter. This is another one of our new pots this month. It comes in this gorgeous sort of foresty emerald green glazed pot. It's just stunning, really gorgeous, really kind of sort of rustic and moody. It looks beautiful no matter what you put in it. So yes, one of my favourites again. And I just thought, we all love having herbs in our kitchens. We all love cooking with herbs, and it's such a nice thing to have, accessible, but also, you know, not just stuck on the windowsill, but just put in something really beautiful. that's almost like a centerpiece. You know, you can have it on your island or by your cooker or on your kitchen table. Yeah, just a really lovely thing to have in the kitchen. So with this herb planter we have oregano, rosemary and thyme. So they smell beautiful, really, really gorgeous textures, and they are all going in here. So we will start with the gravel, sorry. So just a small amount of gravel, don't need much. Ooh, sorry. Just layering in at the bottom. Again, just so that their roots don't sit in water, which they will hate. Yeah, we'll go on to watering in a minute, but they definitely hate having their roots sitting in cold, wet water. So the first one is the oregano. So give them all a really good water. These have had a good drink. And pop it in. So you're planting your plants, the 3 plants, in a sort of a triangle shape. Then in with your rosemary. You can tease so that they have a good start. If you tease the root system a little bit, can you see, so that the roots are a bit looser? So that then goes in. It's definitely a kind of, almost a squeeze, but because we want it to look full, we want to use the bigger plants. And then we're going in with the thyme. Again, after a nice drink. Tease the roots down a bit as well. You might find your thyme, the roots are always very compact. So just a little break. They seem to just access the water a bit better. And then squeeze that in. They do all fit, as you can see, but they're just on the larger size so that it's impactful straight away. And then you'll obviously then have 3 gaps where you need to add your soil. So in those 3 sections, you fill the gaps with soil, compress it down. They smell so good. Compress that down so that there's no air at all. Last side. Okay, so those are all in, and now we add in the moss. So take your bun moss, and the moss basically goes in those 3 sections that we've just added the soil. I'm going to take some of the root system off so that it sits a little bit more flush to the pot. And then add some sphagnum moss. I'll do this one so you can see. So taking off the root system, which is the sort of the browner side. Placing that there again, so that it sort of sits flush with the pot. And then adding in the sphagnum moss for extra texture. Allow some to hang down. And then the last side. And there you have it. So looking after your planter, your herb planter, herbs don't like to sit in cold, sort of wet pots. They don't like having their roots in water. So I would suggest watering let's say every 5 days in a warm house. If you feel the oregano will be the one to droop first. If you feel that that's drooping, maybe water beside the oregano is, because the thyme, maybe because it's a bit more woody in nature, doesn't need as much water. So maybe give the oregano a nice drink, but leave the other side, and just see how you go. You know, get your fingers in there and feel the soil, and if it feels dry, give it a nice drink, but don't overwater so that the water pools at the bottom of the pot, because that's what will kill them. I would say with herbs, a little bit, but more regularly. So yeah, 3-5 days, maybe 5 days, probably more is probably better at the moment. But don't overwater. Don't sort of panic and sort of pour a whole jug's worth of water in, because that will literally just sit in the bottom, because there's no drainage, which is why we have the gravel. It will sit in the middle here of the pot, and the herbs will hate it. So just little and often with herbs. Put them somewhere where they get some nice sunlight, and trying to think anything else. I think that's it. Well, they're quite easy to look after, but yeah, little and often in terms of watering. And I hope you enjoy your herb planter kit. Okay, so we're now going to pot up our fern planters in these gorgeous Berg's Potter rose terracotta pots and saucer. It's slightly smaller than the resin dipped pot. It has this beautiful detailing, like a scalloped edge around the top of the pot, and then a matching saucer. Just really one of my absolute favourites. It's a kind of a different shape to our other Berg's Potter pots, in that it's more of a kind of a sort of a dish or a planter, rather than more of an upright pot. So it's really sort of quite unusual. Definitely one of my favourites. So similar to how we've just done the resin fern planter, we start off with our gravel. That all goes in at the bottom. Now I definitely would recommend putting the pot on the saucer before you add your gravel. Then if the gravel goes through the hole, it doesn't matter. So as this is a slightly shallower dish to the previous resin one that we've just done, you might not need to add any compost in at the bottom. No, you won't. So we just start to pot up. So this is our Boston fern. So that goes in first. And the next, adding in the Maidenhair fern. So before potting, as per usual, I would definitely recommend giving your plants a nice drink before. You can kind of sort of almost angle your plants as you plant them. I'm slightly putting these at a slight angle, not a massive one, but I'm just tilting them towards me slightly, with the idea that they kind of will then just hang over. Obviously you can just put them straight up and they will obviously grow and then start to hang over the sides, but I just thought it actually looks quite nice with a bit of an angle on it. And then lastly, your Therium fern, the smallest one. Now this one might need some soil underneath, because it is, oh no, it doesn't, it's fine. No, I will put some in. Just a little bit, a handful, just to go under where it's going to sit, just because it's a bit smaller. And then that one just goes in front. I'll turn it round. So there you have all 3 of your ferns planted up. Now we just need to go into the gaps with your compost, making sure there's no pockets of air. And as I've just said, with the resin dipped planter, with ferns, they are really, really easy to look after in the house. They like lots of humidity, which they're going to get most from a kitchen or a bathroom. You can spritz gun them with a sort of, I've got a floristry one, but you can buy them off, you know, Amazon or wherever. Just, you know, just a spritz gun, like a hairdresser's spritz gun, just to give them that added humidity. So they could be spritzed as much as you want. So daily, or, you know, however often you can do it, they will benefit from. So that's all the soil, the compost, gone into the 3 sort of spaces between the plants. Gently manipulate the leaves a little bit just to kind of relax them. They will relax into the plant pot anyway. And then we're going to add in our moss. So we have the bun moss, which is the more sort of compact greener moss, and then the sphagnum moss, which is the two-tone, then slightly more textured moss. So just breaking it up, you can take the bottom of the roots off if you need to, if you need it to be a little bit shallower, and just pop it around the edge of the plant pot, where you can see the soil. If it overhangs, that looks lovely. And with watering, they don't like to sit in water. They don't like their roots to get really wet. So little and often with a fern is definitely favourable. Just, you know, to feel the soil. If it feels dry, give them water. If it still feels quite wet and damp, don't water it for a couple more days and just keep an eye on it. I would say you could probably get away with watering once or twice a week maximum. Because again, if you find that the ends of the leaves are starting to brown, and it's obviously been sat in water too long, so it needs to dry out a little bit, and you need to reduce your watering. So I would give it a little trickle every few days, keep an eye on it, don't overwater it, and then see how you go. But it will be absolutely fine. They're really easy to look after, just with a bit of a spritz and, you know, just a kind of intermittent watering, so that it just stays nice and damp and not too wet. So there you have it. This is the rose terracotta pot planter with the ferns. Okay, so we're now moving on to our little lemon tree pocket tutorial section. Now these, to be honest, blow my mind. I just can't get over how gorgeous they are, and how you have a plant so little with these gorgeous fruits. I just love them. I love them so much. Anyway, so when they arrive to you, they will be green because they are lovely and fresh. But they will obviously eventually turn yellow with some really good sunlight and some good drinking. So we're going to put this up again in our gorgeous Copenhagen rose terracotta pots. We've gone for again a slightly bigger pot for it, so that its root system has a good chance to sort of develop. So add in your gravel first, a decent amount, so that they don't sit in moisture. So I've got probably an inch worth of gravel in there. And then after a nice water, gosh, got those lovely roots, add in your lemon tree. Now you'll see that it needs extra compost around it. So we'll go in with that. You'll have that obviously in your kit. So let's add the compost in. Just around the edges, not necessarily on top, just more down the sides, sort of breaking the air pockets. Okay, and then firmly pressing down to make sure there's no air. And again, I've left a decent amount, probably sort of just under an inch of space between the soil on my plant and the rim of my pot, purely to add some moss in, just to kind of finish it off, which again obviously in your kit. So I'll add that in, and then I'll talk you through some sort of lemon tree pointers. So going with the bun moss, which is the more vibrant green moss here, and then finishing with the sphagnum moss in the gaps. So with lemon trees, you can have them indoors and outdoors, which is obviously a winner in my book. In terms of having them outdoors, excuse me, they need obviously lots of sunlight. They are plants that like a humid condition. So if you're watering them, maybe give them a kind of a mist. If your hose pipe does that, give them a mist, or you can use one of those sort of hairdresser kind of misters, as you would with your hydrangeas. Give them really good water regularly. So I would say every 2 days if it's hot. But go by how the plant's looking. So on this plant you can see it's got new shoots, new growth. So it's obviously really happy. I've kept them really well watered and in the sun. So yeah, sun and water really for a lemon tree will keep it happy. And some regular misting as well, because they like that sort of humidity. In terms of bringing them indoors, so you'd have your lemon plant now outside in the garden. You know, again, beautiful on a tablescape. You know, imagine having friends or family over for dinner or for lunch, and it would just be such a sort of, oh, is that a real lemon kind of thing, you know? It's just a really nice feature to have on your table. Also works beautifully mixed with other plants again, you know, whether it's sort of the topiary or the lavender or some herbs, just all works so nice together. So I was saying about transitioning indoors. Okay, so you're keeping it outdoors obviously for the summer. Then as it starts to get cooler, you'll need to bring it in. So lemon trees don't love central heating. So don't plonk them by a radiator by any means. Keep them away. Keep them somewhere, ideally a conservatory if you have one, or a porch, but keep them somewhere if you don't. I keep mine usually in my kitchen, and spritz the hell out of them. So that's how I keep them alive. That's how I've kept them going in the past. Don't get me wrong, they haven't grown massively when I've kept them indoors, because I don't personally have a conservatory or a greenhouse. But I want to keep them indoors anyway. So I just make sure I really mist them with one of those spritz guns, keep them really well watered, away from central heating kind of sources, away from a radiator. Don't pop them on the floor with underfloor heating like I did with my olive. Yeah, just kind of be mindful, look after it if you can, just keep an eye on it, you'll see, it will tell you what it needs. If it's looking really sad, it might be worth a feed, tomato feed. Tomato feed's really good for basically any fruiting plant or vegetable plant. So give it a nice feed, and yeah, just keep an eye on it. But I really think that you'll get so much enjoyment from it, and it's really so rewarding seeing it turn from green to yellow, and as the flowers develop and then the little lemons start to grow, it's really lovely. It's a really kind of quite a magical plant. So I really hope you like it.